You are the creator of a new kind of social network called Life. Now, before we get into what life is and what life is not, why do we need new social networks? What are the problems on social media right now?
So, yeah, life is an answer to a lot of the issues, a lot of different kinds of people are facing on social media today. Um, on social media, we always distinguish three groups of people. You have your average user, you and me. You have your businesses, and you have your creators. Those are kind of like the three big groups of people who use social media. And every one of these groups has different kinds of problems. They use the same product, but their problems and aspirations are quite different. So for people, you and I, you have addiction issues, you have negativity, you have, self-consciousness, um, bullying, which I experienced not so long ago for the first time myself, which is nuts. And we can talk about it later, maybe. Um, then there is the lack of, something that's beyond yourself. Social media has really centered everything, the whole experience within someone's inner self, and as opposed to, doing something that is beyond you. Now, there's also lack of control, and so from lack of control comes different kinds of emotions as well that are trigger different psychological effects that are negative, largely because when you're not in control, then you're at the mercy of something else, which is, algorithms, programs, recommendation engines that you have no control over. And so you consume passively, which induces negative behavior. Then for businesses, it's it's totally different. You have a lot of frustration because you want to put out your content because people tell you you have to be on social media to sell your product or service. And then when you put out like 100 pieces of content and nothing happens, you get frustrated as a business owner. Or, that leads to spending a lot of money to digital media agencies um, to convert state into sales because that's what businesses do on social media is like sell stuff and talk to the customers. And so that goes into customer cost acquisition and all that jazz. And for creators, that's again like that's something, different kinds of products. Problems, sorry. They the burnout. Burnout is like the stats are ridiculous. It's like I think it's like 86% of creators experience burnout, which is crazy. That pressure of creating every day, coming up with new ideas, dealing with a small venture because if you're a professional creator, you're running a small venture. You need to do the marketing, you need to do finances, you need to do negotiations, you need to do accounting, the production, editing, all that stuff leads to crazy hours. Pay is not that great on most platforms. Um, and so you get a host of problems that social media has created over the years. It wasn't always the case. I don't know if you're familiar with the early days of Facebook. It was really simple. Add your friends and family and follow along what they were doing in the weekend, and that was it. And then it kind of like moved towards something else, and those problems kind of like compounded over time. And now we're in 2025, and post COVID, when TikTok came along, it kind of like pushed an old model to like kind of like the last step of it. Kind of feel like everything has compounded, and we're in this era today.
Yeah, I did feel like when Facebook first launched, it was a very simple concept, but it quickly became something bigger than itself, where you started thinking in Facebook posts, you started thinking about your personality on Facebook, people started having kind of split personalities, and then those second order consequences, like your use of Facebook started infringing upon your time outside. The
Hmm.
old like dichotomy of, spending time outside became spending time inside, where
Yeah.
people never wanted to spend time inside, they only wanted to be outside, and then my generation only wanted to spend time inside. Why go outside? There's no computers there. Did you find, or have you found any of these experiences of using social media in your own life? I know you talked about bullying not too long ago. What was social media like when you were growing up? Like it was a simple concept, but what was that simple concept?
It kind of make me sound really old. I'm not that old. But I think it was much more simple. Uh, you just watched what your friends were posting. Uh, People still post it. Your generation doesn't post anymore because largely because they don't want anything to stick and they don't want people outside of the groups to see what is there and it like sticks forever. That's a byproduct of what social media has become today. But when back in the day when the first version of Instagram came out, it was super easy. Um, and I don't remember you know so many talks about the negative aspect of social media. Sure, whenever there's an innovation, you see a couple of people say like, "Oh yeah, it's addictive" and all stuff. But like, so were newspapers when they came out. Um, but it was much more simple. I think that's what it comes down to. Everything was less complicated. Opportunities were great. My first startup when I was 19, I was doing Google ads and I got no social media page. I got no Facebook page, no Instagram, no nothing. That was in 2008. Uh, Google ads were working really well. So I didn't have to do all the social media and all those campaigns and spending a ton of money on Facebook, on Facebook ads and all that jazz. So it was just, I think like the word is like just more simple, really. I think,
And
yeah.
and what happened? It felt like something, really changed. I know we'll probably get into the ad model fiasco. Jaron Lanier was talking about that, saying you guys are gonna fuck everything up. It feels like that really, made social media take a turn for the worst.
It was always baked in though. I think like when people say, "Oh yeah, ads ruined it," but ads was always the model from the very beginning. It wasn't just ads at scale, and the magnitude of it wasn't that big because it was just the beginning. You had ads on Yahoo, you had ads on AOL, you had ads everywhere. You had ads on Google, um, and when Facebook launched, it was always an ad revenue model, and it just got bigger. And investors came in with the promise of profit through ads. That was the model, and that is the model. And that's why whenever somebody comes up with a new social media, it's always an ad model based because for 20 years we're being told like, oh, you can't run a social media platform without ads. That's not possible. That's just how it is. Uh, so it was always baked in. It's just the magnitude of it got bigger because so much more people are using it, and the use cases also. The use cases of social media have changed. It was just. It's not just about friends and cousins and family. This is about business selling, and when that comes in, the price of your data goes up, and everything is becomes about money. And so I think the scale of it just kind of like pushed that model to where we're today.
Yeah, there was a shift during the 2010s where social media stopped being it stopped being social and it started just being media based, where you were, as a user, productized. I couldn't get anywhere without seeing an ad or being forced to watch an ad or clicking on an ad. It
Well,
was it was like,
that's the thing, right? It was always baked in, and then like it slowly rolled out. People got accustomed to the flow of it. Like, oh, that's nice. I can keep with my friends. And like, oh, here, let's put an ad in there quickly, and then run it for a couple of years, and then oh, let's put some more. Oh, well, people aren't complaining. People were just complaining about the redesign of the Facebook page, but were never really complaining about the ads. And like a little bit like like the what's it called the salami slice technique, just little by little infringing on your feed, so to speak. You get more and more, and then people get used to it. And now I think like people kind of realize it's too much. It's kind of like suffocating. But that wasn't always the case.
it's so annoying. Every 3 or 4 posts on Instagram is an advertisement. Every YouTube video that's more than 30 minutes long, there are like 17 advertisements in it. The obvious answer is, oh, just buy premium. But it's like, why do I have to pay to, like, I'm already spending my time watching this. Like, why, what is the issue here? But anyway, you were talking about bullying. What
Yeah.
did you experience with that?
So as a startup, I feel like I need to put some context on this first. As a startup, I have to kind of like find creative solutions for my problems. And I will try pretty much anything. I don't have any limits on what I will not try, uh, all the while being ethic and not breaking any laws, obviously. And so one of the problems we were having is finding a marketing person. And so we ran over the past year countless ads for developers, engineers, all very successful. I mean, like we have a team of 9 people, and it's fantastic. Um, those ads were working really well, and I remember seeing, I think it was the co-founder of Airbnb or Uber or whatever, that was saying like, maybe you should try something totally counterproductive to kind of filter out the people that aren't motivated and don't aren't crazy enough to like jump on board of a startup and have no pay for a while, just equity um, and sweat and doing something really hard. So like, okay, well, you know what? I'll just try it. So what I did is I posted on LinkedIn a job post that was probably the worst possible job post I could, figure out. Ask ChatGPT to kind of help me out to make it really, really bad, really, really bad. So like, no pay, 50 to 40 hours, no chance of success, or very slim because what I startups, and basically just like the most terrible ad. What I got from that, the first week I ran it, I got a really good conversation with one of the senior producers of Fail Army. I don't know if you're familiar with the account. It's the biggest fail page on the internet. And I got an hour 30 conversation with him through that ad because like he was curious. I was like, okay, well, that seems kind of strange. And we're still in contact. We didn't go forward because we didn't align on a couple of things. But I ran it again, and when I ran it again, a couple of profiles came in. I talked to a few. Talked to one guy last week, a TikTok influencer, a creator with close to 1 million followers. But some person on Reddit kind of like took a screenshot of that and posted it online. And I feel like, me talking about this might revive this, but whatever. And then like I realized people were really mad about this, really, really mad. And I didn't expect such a reaction. And then you have, all that frustration that comes from, probably people in a tough place, job-wise, trying to find a job, going to interviews, and being offered like really bad pay. And here I am, on my job offer, offering no pay. There was obviously equity attached to it. I didn't mention on the job ad, and so people took it for face value and really like bashed me. And that's fine. It's strange. I'll tell you the truth. It's feels weird because you're being attacked personally on your character based on little but just a screenshot with no context. And I felt like, okay, well, I'm just going to reply to a few comments, which I did, try to provide context to it. And then you have the keyboard warriors like protecting people that they don't know, and we know why they do it. But anyway, but that kind of like grew and grew and grew for a day and a half, and then like it calmed down. But that was shocking, and it felt like the system was feeding itself from this. So like the more negativity was generated, the more it brought on and on and on. Few positive comments. And that reminded me a couple years ago, I heard um, an interview from an engineer at Facebook who was talking about the rage engine that they had built that was actually purposely providing and recommending that type of content to generate engagement, because rage bait is a term that I learned last week or the other week. And I feel like that's kind of like where it went. That was wild. And okay, I have maybe a thick skin, but it still impacted me because we're only humans. But I thought, wow, imagine a second you're somebody who receives this on a daily basis for whatever reason, right? You're a creator that just tries something out there, and then you have like a bunch of people, you know, attacking that person because they don't like it or because he or her looks weird or whatever. I wear a hat because I have a receding hairline, but whatever. And so like people attack you on your character and your person day out, day in. And if you are bombarded with this leads to really bad behavior and like suicidal thoughts and like all that stuff. And you see it in the news, like young people being impacted by this in their lives, and then they feel themselves really bad. And although they never met those people, but I'll tell you, like it has an impact on you, even if discard it, it has an impact. And so that was kind of an experience. Yeah.
Yeah, there are many things to say about that. Number one is I find it incredibly ironic and also kind of like the devil laughing on your shoulder of you trying to create another platform and using traditional social media to advertise the job, and then traditional social media with all its problems picking up that advertisement and running with it and contributing to all the problems it already has. That's
And
hilarious.
that's
Not to, put salt on your wounds, but I do think I, I don't want to again be abrasive, but I think it's really good that you went through that because it showed
yeah,
you, number one, or at least it gave you conviction that what you're
yeah,
doing has real power. And I'm not trying to kind of spin it in any way. Sure, I mean, when I was looking for a job and when I used to see those job boards of people asking for 50 hours and offering no pay, I'd be like, go fuck yourself. So I understand it from that perspective. But at the same time, there is this major tendency, obviously, on social media to just say whatever you want. So people could have called you, I know you're from France, but people could have called you, you're from another country, or you're from this, or you're from that, or you've
I've been
scammed
called
17 other people,
I've been called stuff.
being called stuff, and there's no validation, there's no checks and balances on that. And the problem, I'm guessing it was on Reddit, but the problem with places like Reddit and specifically Reddit is that you cannot, like, you can't really go through the history of somebody if it's like a first advertisement or if it's a very new user. And so what ends up happening is that, number one, 60 to 75% of Reddit is bots anyway. So it's bots feeding into it as well. But number two is that people are just looking for somebody to kick while they're down. They're just looking for that small thing.
But that's human
And
nature, though.
I don't think so. I would disagree with you on that. But please, I want to hear what you have to say.
So, to your first point, it was a great experience, so to speak, because you read the stories, right? You read about cyberbullying and all that stuff, and you read about it, but it never happens to you. Um, and then you kind of shrug it off. You're like, well, it happens, but how bad can it be? And then it actually happens to you, and then you realize, shit, like this is kind of like this is a real thing. It's a real, real, real thing, and you can easily be empathic to people who are more fragile and be like, well, this if this has an impact on me, and like I'm prepared to take hits because what I'm doing is kind of risky, but for a regular person to that has nothing to do with any of that, getting all that hate, that stuff. So um, in that respect, it it strengthened my resolve and the teams because I told the team, right, I was like, I got roasted. Most of the team were like, yeah, whatever. But they haven't lived it. So it's to your last point, um, kicking somebody while he's down. I think that's kind of like the bad side of humanity. Um, it's one of those traits. It's one of those traits that humans have. I don't kick somebody when he's down, but it's easily triggerable uh, in a way. Let's imagine, let's put you, let's put ourselves in the shoes of the guys that were like shitting on me. You are at your 50th job interview, and you know you qualified for the job, and you talk with people and you get told no, 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 and then you get told like, oh, you're too expensive, or you're too old, or we find somebody else 50, 100 times. And that's time consuming. So you invest your personal time in it and you get always like bad feedback. And then you see an ad that's like, hey, come work for free. I can understand in a way, like this was an excuse to release that anger because they have no other release mechanisms. Maybe they don't want to talk to their spouse or whatever about it, and it's like just builds up inside of you. And so when the changes come online, like you said, you're behind your keyboard, type away, and it's free. There's no consequence for now, but that begs the question: should there be? Um,
Absolutely. I
I don't
think
know. I don't know.
I'm
I'm not
pretty
sure.
terrified, honestly, because I feel like my generation especially are so quick to like record people, so quick to do those pranks, those really stupid pranks where they go up and they mess with somebody and then they record their reaction and they post that, and all the comments either shit on the person that reacted, or shit on like the influencer. Influencer is a dumb word anyway. But I just want to, because I think this is a really important thing and it will serve as a nice segue into the next point. But I don't think it's human nature to kick somebody when they're down, but I do think it is human nature to do what everybody else is doing. And
Group think is a thing.
groupthink,
That's for
absolutely.
sure, 100%. And so like the group think enables those kind of like nasty behavior, right? So like that's okay. So that's kind of like a fair point, right? So like you might not do it on your own, but if you see other people do it, then you go and have a field day at it. So maybe that's enables your nasty instincts that maybe one can have for whatever reason. That's true. And I mean, the reflex of filming everything,
I
that's
hate
just
it.
that
I hate it so
you have a
much.
camera on you have a camera on your phone.
That's also like a problem. See, this is the thing, is social media and digital technology has turned us into these beings that we don't want to be. It's made us, it's taken away from us our humanity. And this is the big the like kind of the biggest asterisk on the entire conversation is we haven't ever had social networks that benefit us in the long run, or even in the short run. It's always been short-term consequences and long-term consequences. So now I think it would be cool to talk about life and what you've done differently, because it's something that it's like a really fun conversation to be had of what could social networks be and what should they be. And you've thought very deeply about this.
Yeah. This is a fascinating problem. I think a former VP of Facebook, he's quite famous. Chamay
Tim
Palapia.
Kendall?
No, Chamay Palapia. I think his name is. I might
Oh,
pronounce his
Chamath,
name.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, Chamath.
Chamath.
I might pronounce his name. Sorry, incorrectly. He was saying at I think it was at Stanford that what they did at Facebook was ripping apart the fabric of society, and we see it. It's all about me, and self-centric. So our relationship to others have kind of like degraded over time. And but we're not going to redo the history of social media, but I think everybody feels it when it comes to that, right? Like I think especially your generation that was born in it, everything was established. So you really never experienced something without it. But I think that you feel that there's something off with this stuff. It's like, and I think this is something human, and you can't put your finger on what it is. Maybe you can't express what it is. Um, and that's why, like maybe people don't know what change looks like and how it can be different because they're so used to these whole massive ecosystems that we use every day. But we feel there's something weird. Uh, even we laugh. I like my memes. I like my sports news. I use social media every day. I'm building one, but aside of that, I still use the big ones. There's lots of cool stuff. I'm not saying like it's all bad, but when you put your phone down and and then you're 5 minutes and you have to check if there's something. I think everybody who's listening here has had that behavior. And I think everybody who's listening to this has thought at one time or the other, well, this is weird. Like, why am I doing that? I'm like, oh, there's nothing new. Okay, I'll just, okay, 5 minutes later, you do that again. And it's like these small things like this where you feel, I don't know, it just feels weird. And that's because there's no more human connections. And that's because there's nothing greater than yourself or any purpose that you may or may not have through social media because that brings nothing. It's just like instant gratifications, your dopamine hits, um, and your scrolls, and your likes, gathering the likes, all these comments and stuff where you just say something on purpose to get validation that feels, that fuels, that like stuff that we can't really explain. And so that's what we're trying to address with life, amongst other things. And it's like rebuilding connection. And I think Facebook did a great job at the very beginning. Great job. You know, I was talking with my uncle more than ever when Facebook was on. I could see what my cousins were up to. We grew up separately in different cities, so I wasn't seeing them a lot. And back then, didn't have like those phones, the smartphones where you can exchange so fast and whatever. And so like Facebook was great. It was great. It was a human connection tool, and that's kind of lost. Um,
Let's
and
take a pause just
yeah,
there, just
go
for a
on.
second. Facebook absolutely was a human connection tool, but I'm going to be dark for a second. So was COVID. I got closer with my family than I ever had
Okay,
been
that's an interesting
because
spin.
we were in the same four walls, like we were in the
Yeah,
same household for,
yeah,
months on end. We couldn't leave
yeah.
asterisk that. I know what you're saying in the sense of the concept of Facebook was something necessary and it evolved into something else, but like it feels like it's interesting how humans have the capacity to find subtleties and small pockets of connection and small pockets of unity within this broader painting of chaos. And so I do want to ask you, because you're the right person to ask this question before we move on. What is connection? Like, what is human connection?
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask because that's a very broad philosophical question, and my first instinct to reply to that is everybody will have a different answer to this because a connection, you can have different types of connection, right? You can have love connection, friendship connection. For example, I'll give you an example, right? My best friend, we see each other like 4 times a year, and yet we have a very strong connection because, well, we met in China a long time ago, um, and he's a great guy. I don't see him every day. Doesn't mean I don't have a connection to it. Some other people will say, oh, my family is super, super important. I need to see them every week to have that connection. And so connection really depends on who you ask what it is. Um, but it's tied to emotion. At the end of the day, a connection is an emotional bond that you have between two human beings, whether you see them face to face in the flesh or not. Um, and if you lack connections, if you feel alone all the time, then we need to ask ourselves, are those apps doing a good job at doing connections? Because like you said, there's small pockets and like people with the same center of interest will find themselves and will have something in common and will build on that. And it's super powerful, super, super powerful. Um, but it's small pockets. And so like people will find the good and they will hold on to that good, which gives us hope about what we're trying to build because there is hope. Nothing is not all doom and gloom. Um, People will find that connection because it's in our DNA to connect with other people. That's just how we built, and we are social creatures since the very very beginning of humanity. We're always living in groups. Group was a strength, and that has never left. And now that these apps like are taking us apart, we're feeling that strangeness, and that's what exactly what's happening. Is like we're being pulled apart from each other rather than coming together. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. It's a very complicated topic.
No,
I'm not sure if I'm qualified.
it's absolutely correct. It's one of those things that we've all had this same thought of like, wow, we can have access to people halfway around the world. Like I talked to one of my good friends, Jamie Meyer, once or twice a month, and she's in Australia and I'm in Canada. It's like I've never even met her in person, and yet we've developed such a close bond. And so social media is incredible on that
It's
front
incredible. It's incredible
for the connection,
for a lot of things.
but it's not just connection that we have to suffer through in order to get the connection. It's like we have to go through the swamp in order to get to the rainbow, the pot of gold,
Yeah, the pot
right?
of gold. Is the pot of gold ever attainable? I don't think there is any perfect system, but we can certainly do better. I think that's kind of like the mindset that, you know, I think any entrepreneur in any kind of business that wants to disrupt something that's established, like there's something, there are flaws, and we can do better. So let's try to do better. Um, and I'm not sure that the people who created these systems should be trusted to fix their own thing. So like that's kind of like that's kind of like I always come back to this like when you hear one of the big guys from these big apps say like, "Oh yeah, we'll bring out the OG Facebook." I'm like, "Yeah, but you spent 20 years building something else, and now that you push the envelope too far, you want everybody to trust that you are going to make something different than what you've done for the past 20 years." I'm like, at some point, you're like, okay, I mean, guys, come on, you know, come on. So like,
It's like asking a drug dealer to make their drugs less addictive. It doesn't make
it's
any
just,
sense.
just
There's
like
no incentive.
it's like I like second chances. Okay, I'm a big guy. I'm a big second chance guy. Big second chance. I had many second chances in my life. Um, but if you Google Facebook scandals, your list is going to be like this long. And how many second chances do you need? I mean, like you sold the data, you sold it again, you did this, you did that, and every time you said, "Oh, I'm not going to do it again," and I'm not going to do it again, I was like, and we have to trust you to build something better because you learned from your mistakes. I mean, come on, at some point, we can do better. We can do better, and we are certainly trying to do something better. So, I mean, maybe we'll fail, but at least we'll try.
Well, so how are you trying to do something better in the sense of, look, what does life do that's different? I mean, it's a social network, but like
Yeah.
you've identified the social and the network aspect very intimately and interestingly.
So life is a solution that works as a group. There is not one thing, there's no silver bullet, first of all. There's no one thing that will solve everything. That doesn't exist. That's magical. But life is a host of solutions that work together in conjunction to create a new product and a new solution, a new way of thinking about social media. So at the very beginning of this talk, we talked about what is wrong with social media. And so we systematically approached everything that's wrong with social media and tried to find a solution for it. But more than that, trying to find something that works in conjunction with other problems so that it's interlinked and everything works together to solve the bigger issues. Um, and that kind of starts with the business model. And we talked about ads as a business model. And so everybody who tried social media and tried to do something new, it was always feature driven. So Be Real came on with, let's take a picture with the front and back camera, but didn't really provide any value besides that. Not to be, you know, bad about them. They had a fantastic raise, super exit, and very successful. I mean, like, you know, but it wasn't meant to probably be bigger than that because it was feature driven. And there's like many other examples. So the principle, the fundamental change is the business model. How do you work that as a business, and how do you work that from the ground zero, level zero? So we thought, let's ditch ads as our principal revenue generator, but not, let's not cut ads. Let me explain. We are going still to have some ads, less than competition, but still going to have some ads. However, we're going to do something truly unique with those ads. Creators don't make enough money, yet a lot of your generation wants to be in the content creation in the creator economy because it's fun. And making videos, making content is a fun thing to do. But yet payouts are rubbish, and not everybody's going to become a Mr. Beast. It's just that's just a fact. So advertising should be used to pay content creators better. So 40%, between 30 and 40% of our revenue, advertising revenue from our feeds are going to go to content creators. That means that instead of having a set pie, which is the case of most of the networks today, where you have like a pie of $2 million, let's say, and however many creators are in that pie, you have to share. So the more creator come in the pie, the less you have to eat. And so your share becomes smaller and smaller, and the pie isn't getting bigger. So we thought, well, let's give creators what their share should be, because at the end of the day, they're also powering the network with their content. And so it should only be fair that they make a fair share. And that model grows and is sustainable because it grows with them. So like as the network grows, so do they earning, and vice versa. So we grow together, and that's one of the fundamental shifts for creators. Then we also thought we need something more than features. Again, like it's not just features, it's really like the philosophy behind it. And so we thought social media generates a formidable wealth and revenue. It's huge. It's tens of billions of dollars a year. And we thought, if my company is going to make $15 billion, what does it change if I make 10? For me as a business, it doesn't change that much. At the end of the day, sure, you can do more R&D and stuff, but $5 billion put somewhere else will have a big impact. And so like we thought, okay, let's take another chunk of this advertising money and give it away. And I know it sounds counterproductive. And by giving away, I'm saying investing it. Investing in where? Into charities and good causes that people from the network choose every month. The idea is we make a certain amount of money. 20% of that goes into what we call the life fund. Every month, we put a couple charities up for vote from the community, and people vote on where their share should go. And at the end of the month, based on the weights of each charity, we just donate that money. So to give you an example, if TikTok did that last year, they would have given away $1.4 billion in the US only. So like, we wouldn't be talking about the TikTok ban, we wouldn't be talking about any of that, because I would make so much change and like so much deep impact in people's lives. And you can't do that because this is a social network. It should be about people, it should be about helping people. It's a social network. Everybody should win out of this. Like this almost should be a common good. Still a business, but it should almost be a common good. So like we really thought about how can we have everybody win? Us as a business, creators, people to have like a purpose. So like you're scrolling, but while you do that, you're gonna help us donate and change people's lives, whether it's like orphanage, soup kitchens, whatever you can think of where people need the help. So that's one thing, and that's a thing that's going to be really, really powerful. Then we also looked at the frustration of people that can't have an impact on their algorithm. We talk about algorithms all the time. When you open social media, say, oh, the algorithm doesn't show my stuff, whatever. The thing is, we can't control it today. And so we're going to introduce for the first time a fully customizable algorithm that you will be able to control and tell it exactly what you want and when you want and how you want it. So we have something that we call the split feed. And when one tap, you will be able to see entertainment content, learning content, news content, live content, or a mix of that in picture or video. We go down the rabbit hole with what we call the feed balance. Feed balance, let's say you're into golf and cooking and you want, I don't know, 70% golf and 30% cooking. you will be able to do that. It's going to tell your algorithm, I want this and this and that, and that's how I want my feed. So don't recommend me stuff that I don't need to see because I don't want it. Of course, it's not for everybody. Sometimes you like to be surprised, so you can also, tap the button and be like, hey, let the life algorithm do its thing and be surprised and scroll kind of randomly because sometimes it also feels nice to do so. So life is about like giving choices to people on how they want to have the experience, tailor it if they want to, have it taken care for them if they choose so. Um, Now, this is great, but it's still not enough. I feel like we we're still building the whole solution because we're still missing businesses. And for businesses, we need them to find their customers better, and we need customers to find businesses better because when you have a problem, you want it to get solved. That's kind of like the whole point of a business. Um, and you need to sell. So finding people, selling easier and cheaper, because those are the three things. So we thought, well, we're going to build something that we call the yellow pages in life. Yellow pages for, maybe the younger generation was, and I feel so old by saying this, but whatever. It used to be a big book that was yellow and with pages in it and phone numbers. So you would and you look for a plumber, you would open the book, go a plumber in your city, and you would find phone numbers and you would call and be like, hey, okay, I have a leak in my sink, whatever, can you go? So that was a yellow page, right? And so like we're gonna do the same concept, but within life. So like you're gonna tap a button and then you're gonna have like all these like job categories that you want to search, like search for a content creator, for a plumber, or a pizza restaurant, whatever. Just tap, and then the whole thing is going to tell you exactly who you should go talk to based on either location, preferences, you name it. So that's going to make people find a business super fast, super easy, way easier than a Google search because Google has kind of become difficult to use somehow. Um, and so like finding people is great. Selling to people, your customers, the ones you care about, is amazing. So instead of having your website where you use social media today, you do your videos, you do your posts, and then you have to bring them to your website. And once they're on your website, you have to make them put, their credit card information, and you have to walk them through the website. You have to design your website. You have to make everything great so that they don't leave and go back to social media and scroll and find something else, or go on Amazon because Amazon is great. And so we thought, well, let's have everything inside the app. So inside your profile, you will have a professional profile where you will have your pictures, your videos, your sounds, your podcasts, your reviews, your everything that a business needs to advertise itself and show the world who they are as a business and as an organization. And people are going to be able to buy from the app, straight from the app. So they won't have to go anywhere else. They won't have to go on a Shopify store. They won't have to go buy on a different website. Everything's going to be super simple and super fast. Um, Third thing, creator economy, trillions of dollars, and big issue is the digital media companies. When you're a small pizza shop, you don't necessarily know how to do social media, and you know how to do social media because you were born in it. But the 50-year-old guy probably doesn't know how to do it. So he will go to a social media agency and be like, hey, I would like to work with a creator. And as a creator, you're a pizza creator and you taste pizzas, for example. And so you want to work with a business that does pizza, that is aligned with your values and respects who you are, and where you have again, like, it's about connection. When you do business together, it's because there's the connection. It's not just service. It's just because you feel good giving the money to somebody to provide a service or a product. And so you will pay a lot of money as a creator or as a business to that agency to match you. Problem with that is there's a lot. And I'm not going to make a lot of friends by saying that, but 99% of the time when you go through these, you will never find your ideal match, just because one agency doesn't have the full market. So by definition, you will have maybe a close match, but never the perfect match. And so we thought, oh, let's change that, put everything on the market, the life marketplace, where creators and business can work directly together at a fraction of the cost and at a very much higher efficiency than what it is today. And so all these solutions working together form, we believe, something kind of like new, um, and innovative. Obviously, we talked about bullying and all that stuff. There's a big push on us to make this whole experience more positive. We're going to include a lot of services into this, and the goal of life in a couple of years is going to be creating what we call the life angel. And the life angel is basically going to take all these aspects of your life. Everything's going to be in a black box. We won't see any of it. It's all going to be on the phone. So we're not going to put our fingers in your data or anything. That's also super important. And the goal of the life angel is going to make you a better person. So let's say you haven't talked to your aunt in a couple of weeks. You'll get the ping like, hey, how about sending a message to your aunt? Ask her how she is. Or, hey, your friend might need, a hug or, a nice message to help him out or something. And so the life angel is really going to bring everything that's positive into us and foster and make you better. Whoever you are, you will have different skills and traits that are going to emerge because everybody's different. Everybody has different talents. Everybody has talents, just they're different. And the goal of the life angel is going to enhance who you are as a good person, because we all have good, no matter what, the pessimists say. And there's a lot. I mean, like, we can go on forever, but I think that's already quite a lot to talk about.
There are two main deep, difficult questions that come up. One is, how do you not let life turn into Facebook? Because
Mm.
again, Facebook started off with a very, let's say, noble vision. Let's
Was
say,
it was it judging people on their appearances? Was it was it nice?
that's true. No, thank you. That's a good call out. Facebook started maybe as a good concept of connection. Is
Yeah,
that fair?
sure. Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
But it morphed into something else.
I don't think I don't think it morphed into something else. It was always the plan. It just took years to develop and grow. But again, the business model was founded on ads, and the investors that came in famously invested on that deal. And you can't blame them. And that's capitalism, maybe. And capitalism is great. You just need to steer it in the right direction. You can still make money and have everybody profit from it instead of just one operator. That doesn't mean it's not capitalism. It's certainly not communism. It's just like a different way to do things. Um, and as an investor, I'm going to put my money into a certain deal. The deal was, hey, I'm going to build this social network, and ads are going to run it, and I'm going to push as much as I can to make as much profit as I can. And as an investor, if I like that deal, I invest in that deal. And if I invest in that deal, I'm entitled to see returns on my investment. That's it's fair. It's fair. It's just the nature of it is opens the doors to a lot of nasty stuff. But the deal in itself, if you invest in a deal like that, then that's what you get. We're in a position where, so to your question, we're in a position where we have no investors right now. We're looking. It's difficult. I'll be honest. But we're in a position where we can set our rules because we are building our own product. App comes out today. Um, it's not going to be perfect, but anyway. Um, and this is the deal that we are going to bring investors in, and I think like we should not compromise. There are going to be people out there that believe in the mission that we're about. And if an investor comes to us and be like, hey, well, this is all nice, that money, charity, and all that stuff, but we're just going to do like 2%. I don't think that's good enough for me. That's and it's not going to be good enough for the team either, because everybody who works with us right now, they all work for no pay. They all work for the mission. I'll talk to them from, you know, in the States, never met them, never met them. And I told you exactly what I'm telling you now. And that's what they agreed to work on. Again, it's the deal that I'm proposing. And if I am going to compromise myself, then these people are going to leave because that's not what they signed up for. And I think like if we are compromising ourselves, then we would be betraying our people and the users and the people that trust to use our services. And I don't think that's acceptable. So
Then if absolute power corrupts absolutely, then how do you stop yourself or refrain yourself or restrain yourself from becoming like a Zuckerberg?
you can never, in French, you say you can never say never, right? Um, but it all comes down to why you do what you do. I think that's one of the drivers. I've sunk 3 years of my life into this. If I was doing it for the money, I could probably work at a bank uh, and make much more, or in consulting or whatever. So I'm not really doing it for the money. Um, so if you don't do it for the money, then it opens up a lot. How much, how much do you need to live a comfortable life? If your startup is super famous and super successful, you'll be wealthy, you'll have enough to provide for the family, um, and that's already pretty good. So again, like to my point, I said earlier, like if your company makes 10 billion or 15 billion, what does it change? Really, what does it change? So if you can do good, and look at this is an interesting question. Look at all these billionaires that are giving away now, towards their end of their lives, because you see Bill Gates and all this stuff like they might have given out, before, but it certainly has grown. I think there's a feeling of guilt that's kind of like taken root. Uh, and it's like, okay, well, maybe now I need to kind of give out because I'm so wealthy that I could actually be doing something else. And maybe there is some image marketing as well. Really, like your generation is really sensitive to that stuff, where, oh, you like if you can do something, why don't you? Uh, and I mean, I can't say I'm never going to be corrupted. I'd be a hypocrite if I'd said never. But I think it comes down to why you start a project, why you believe in what you believe, and then you have to stay true to who you are. And again, like I strongly think that if I am not, I'm saying this this is going to be public record, right? So app comes out today, we have zero users, there is nothing, I have no money, right? So like whatever, people can take my word on it. If this ever becomes big, if I betray the trust of people that are going to use their services and the people that work on this company, then I will have failed, and this might come bite me in the butt later. But they should be right to leave the platform because then the trust is broken, and that's what all of them did. They broke the trust, and then they asked for trust again without providing the tools to build up the trust again. And now everybody's cynical, and we are led to this crazy world where we don't believe anything anymore what anybody says because the link is broken.
Oh, well, so you bring up a really interesting topic, which we should tread carefully on. But how does life help with politics?
Okay. Uh, so, okay, here is what I wanted to do last year. Last year was election cycle. So in the States, it's really, really big. Um, and social media has been and has become one of the main, media to convey information. It's not TV anymore. TV is kind of dead. Podcasts become really, really big. Anyway, um, we wanted to launch before the election because we have something. Um, so like the split feed, you can select if you want to see only information. You can just tap information, and then you would see only information. So that would have been great for politics to use because that's a nice media, it's a nice way to filter out content. Um, we don't want to become a political sided organization. Um, I think if anything, the current social media landscape shows us is that it's very divided. You get your Meta people, you have your TikTok people. One doesn't want to talk to the other because political reasons. Then you have, X, Blue Sky. Again, also a lot of divide caused by politics. And so you have like different tribes and different apps. A lot of it is politically motivated. You have new platforms that are coming up because of the political divide to cater to one or the other audience. And again, like I understand the need for the market to have this because there's a market for it. But at the end of the day, it's not bringing people back together. It's just splitting them more and dividing them more further apart from each other. So like, great, you have your right wing platform, amazing. You have your left wing platform, great. But then like, neither of these people are talking to each other anymore. And so like, one side is talking between themselves and the other is talking between themselves. So it's great. There's a great echo chambers. And so like, that's kind of kills the political debate, and you can disagree with somebody and not hate somebody for not having the same opinions. That's my view. And I think with life, there's a feature that we're gonna unveil in a couple of months. Can't really talk about it, but this is going to be a really nice bridge for short form and long form content to have different kind of perspective on all kinds of different information. Um, so we're always going to try to be kind of like not in between. I don't think that's the good word, but have balance. Um, and politics is not my business. I am not into politics. I love politics personally. I think it's fascinating, super interesting. For many, many regards, whatever your opinions are, politics are fascinating. Um, but we're not a political organization, and so we try not to be, and we're try to be fair and offer. So your question, I think that where you want to go at is, echo chambers and like promoting different points of views. I think that's where you want to go. Um, when today, once you engage with something, the algorithm will show you more of it because that's what it's designed for. It will show you more of what you like so that you stay more on the app and you consume more ads and yada yada yada. So like same for political content. If you like one type of content, which is political, you're gonna be shown the same, the same, the same, the same, the same. And this is going to reinforce your belief, whether you're on one side or the other or in the middle. So I understand the need for people to stay on the platform to make more money, but this is not in the interest of people. It's in the interest of the platform. And again, if I was here to make money, I would I would probably not do this and do something else. So like we can try, I don't know if we're going to succeed, but we can try to offer you different kinds of points of view, whether or not you like it or not, because it's healthy to have different kinds of point of view. Um, maybe, the most militant of people will not like it because they certainly don't want to see one or the other, but I think it's healthy. So we'll try.
Well, if you don't get exposed to that, then you just get my generation who are completely unable and completely sensitive to any points that don't absolutely conform
Well,
to how they think and believe and interpret the world. And it's totally frustrating to interact with people from my generation that whenever you bring up nuanced opinions or you just ask why they think that, number one, they cannot explain it, but number two, they get upset that you don't immediately agree with them. There's no conversational art form anymore. There's
does
no
that
art to the conversation.
does that come from the education system and the lack of language tools?
Yes, it comes from the education system. It comes from their inability to express what they think and feel. It also comes from their lack of critical thinking skills because they're unable to even understand what they feel because they haven't thought deeply about it, because they've probably consumed a 15-second TikTok on it, and the not Myers-Briggs. There's um, a cognitive bias that Dunning-Kruger, I believe, where you think you're an expert on something with very little information.
Yeah, we aren't
It's
we all experts about stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I've noticed. As soon as COVID happened, we were all virology and epidemiology
Right,
experts. As soon
exactly.
as the Ukraine war happened, we were all geopolitical experts. It always happens. As soon as the stock market crashes, we're all economists somehow.
Yep.
It's a very frustrating thing. But the most important thing for the context that we're talking about is, again, Gen Z grew up on social media, and so their brains were neuroplastically morphed around them, and so they grew up with algorithms that just conform to them. As you know, that's just how social media works.
Yep.
So they're not, time on site is a very important thing, and so you're not going to show people, for the most part, things that they don't agree with. So if you like certain types of politics A or certain types of politics B, you're just going to be showed more and more and more of that. What that
Yeah.
does create is that echo chamber and that bubble. And so as soon as people come into the real world and see how people actually live and actually talk about things, they're unable, they're unwilling, they're uninterested to engage with that. And this is how my generation's brains are developed. Not developing, but have developed. And there's no solution to that other than rewiring, or at least creating a social network that incentivizes them to think
So
differently.
that's muscle memory. What you're describing, that's like, you know, you're so your habits are so strong. It's muscle memory. And we are aware of that. It is this is has been a topic of conversation with the team. It's like, how, to your words, do the rewiring. It's not, I don't think it's the right word because it implies manipulation and um, kind of like a negative aspect to it. Is like maybe open your mind to something else rather than rewiring to uh, steering one direction, one or the other direction. But that's difficult. Muscle memory is difficult, so difficult that you used to have your action buttons on the side of your screen of a social media. You have your likes, your comment. We're ditching all that. You're not gonna have a sidebar anymore. You're not gonna have like counts on comments, saves, shares. Everything's going to be judged on the merit of what you see. So like there's few things that we can implement to try to get rid of these nasty habits that have been formed over the years. But I certainly will not say that we will cure what you just talked about. Uh, that would be no, but like that change of perspective is going to take a long, long time. It's going to take a lot of trust. That means that our job not only is going to be to survive financially, is going to be able to grow, is going to be able to show the people that we're saying we're doing what we're saying, and rebuild the trust brick by brick. And maybe if we do that, maybe by building up that stuff from the ground up, again, like we need to start from scratch. Um, Maybe we have a chance to introduce some 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 stuff like that, but it's going to take a tremendous effort, and we can't certainly do it by ourselves because again, it's human connections. It's just going to be a group thing and a movement that we need to create to start this stuff.
That's okay. I would rather people work on the problem, and I don't think you'll fail, but I'd rather people work on the problem and fail than people just assume that it's a lost cause. Because I would disagree with you that this is something that is going to be completely difficult, because earlier in the conversation we already said people feel strange about this.
Yeah, but
We
people are
don't
also
listen.
cynical about it.
Yeah, but everybody's cynical about pretty much everything because that's what we're incentivized to feel right now
Yeah,
because that's what gets clicks. If people
yeah,
talk about like puppies crossing the road or whatever, I don't really care. But if I talk about, politician Y doing crazy stuff or saying crazy stuff, then that gets a bunch of clicks. It's just what's incentivized right now. If we change what is the incentive on social media, then all these second order effects come into play. And that's, I think, goes back to what we're talking about. We have our intuition that's telling us this is not healthy. Whenever we're on Instagram for an hour or for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 5 minutes, we feel like shit. That's
that's
like
why
we have to listen to that.
that's why we have a timer at the top of our screen. So like you see your feed, and at the top you have a timer. It's a 24-hour timer. It's quite big, and you'll see it goes down. That's the life cycle. There's few options that and we turn this into something cool, the video of the day, but we can talk about it later. We put that timer down because of exactly what you just said, the doom scrolling. Actually, this comes from a something that my mom told me. Um, my mom is 68, very new to social media, very recent. And one morning, she was visiting, and one morning she comes into my office, and she sits, and she's like, something weird happened to me yesterday." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, I was on my phone at midnight, and then at 2 a.m. I put my phone down, and I didn't realize it was 2 a.m. And like she was scrolling for 2 hours and didn't realize. And I told her, well, that's called doom scrolling. It's like a thing. And it's like everybody is caught into it. And so this is where I thought, like, okay, either the solution is today that you put a hard limit on your phone. Second solution, you go onto a dumb phone with no apps and you cut it out completely. Both of them are very childish solutions. They're the best we got today, but they're very childish in a way that you have to have a stop, a break, because the system is so rigged against you that you have to break it. And so I thought, well, let's put a timer on the app, big enough so you can see when you scroll the time go, but not intrusive enough where you have to put a limit like a child onto your device, so you have to stop an app. So because we're all adults, so that's what a timer is, and then we turn it into something different. But to your point, uh, that stuff is so powerful on us. It's just like there was a study. This is like that gesture triggers stuff in your brain that is addictive. The gesture on itself is addictive. So we have to kind of like reframe that stuff. Um, but I think like you mentioned, like the cynics, and we feel there's something wrong. I'm doing this because I believe in everybody there is this goodness inherently. Um, and I'm a hopeless optimist, so I'll believe our cause is worthy, and so maybe maybe it'll resonate to people, maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah. We'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. That's a very important thing. If you had a magic wand and you could solve one problem in the world, what would it be and why? And for this conversation, you're not allowed to say social media or anything like that.
Can I say poverty? So there's very few things in life that provoke in me a very upsetting feeling. Um, like that kind of like shakes me. And it's like seeing poverty in the street. That's like, for me, this is I don't know how to explain it. It's really it's really powerful and it's really nasty. That it really upsets me. It makes me sad. It's very difficult to explain. So if I could solve that, um, that'd be great. Also, one of the reasons why we did the Life Fund, because and I hate to tie it into that, but that's one of the reasons why I came up with a system. If we can help, you know, the homeless, people who need anything like food or whatever, children, um, by the power of our own attention. Like we don't ask any money from you, nothing. Just like use a great product that makes your life better, where you can learn stuff, be informed, being entertained in a healthy way. And by doing that, the byproduct of this is we can invest money into these causes. Then that's great because then maybe a business has a chance to finally do something about this fucking situation there's enough wealth out there to solve that fucking problem. And like the state isn't going to fix it. We've seen as much like no country except maybe Singapore and maybe and even not maybe not even nobody solves poverty. And I think like it has to be incentivized. And yeah, so poverty, if I had a magic wand, that'd be great.
And last question, but what gives you hope in the world?
Ah, um, so I'm a Christian, and by default, that kind of makes me hopeful. Um, and everybody has their own belief, but my belief is that there's something better out there, and we are all born with this good, and it comes down to who you nurture. Do you nurture your bad wolf or the good one? And I think if you keep giving food to the bad one, then like nasty stuff happen. But you can see all around the world, and social media is great for that because you can see great things happening on social media because there's stories that come out, and there's like causes that get solved, and there's like problems that get solved, and there's like solution, people coming together, and all that stuff, and it's just fucking great. And so like there's always something better that can be achieved by linking people together. So even though there's some toxic traits about it, linking people together makes solution happen and makes civilization grow and move forward. I think that's a good way to put it.
Absolutely. Julian, this has been a fantastic conversation. A
Yeah.
very important one at that. Where can we find you online?
Very simple. Julien Belmont one on my social medias, all across the same handle, all the big ones, and see you on life. That's pretty much it.
We'll see you on live. Well, Julian, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ayush.